It's time for another edition of the Kohl's Tractor and Equipment Football Roundtable on J98. Tonight we'll recap the last weekend of high school football and preview the upcoming slate of games.
Rickerman takes the snap, looking for the fade route in the corner, and it's there. Touchdown. He was covered like stank on a cow patty. And they pitch it out wide, and they're throwing it. Lampros throws it deep. It's caught in the end zone. Touchdown. Touchdown, St. Pius.
We'll also be joined live by different players and coaches all throughout the season.
They're going to hand it off to Welch, and he breaks one defender, breaks another defender, has room in front of him. He's on the 20, open room in front. Hey, there goes Welch. Give him 6 more.
It's just the music. You can let it go. It'll fade itself out.
On the right side, breaks 2 tackles, slamming his way forward.
Okay, but you need to come on the first 20, right?
Broadcasting live from Applebee.
No, or yes, yeah. Well, I'll jump on at the end of Stephanie here.
Here are your hosts, Brandon Pavlina and Nathan Gertz.
And welcome into week 1 table here from Applebee's in Farmington. I'm Brandon Pavlina alongside the entire regional radio sports team. Alongside my co-host, Nathan Gertz, we've got Chad Speaker, Jacob Vinson, and Stephen Kapler. And yes, we are coming to you live on Facebook as well as being here on J98 The Boot. So if you want to see the beautiful faces of the folks that run our, right, exactly. If you want to see the beautiful faces of us sports guys, you can go check us out at Facebook. Go to mymoinfo.com or go to the MyMoInfo and J98 Facebook page. But we have week 1 of football in the books. Very exciting week of action. Some games on our airways were a little bit one-sided, but still a fun week of action, and glad to be back with some high school football in the area.
It was good to just get to see kids competing again. And I know parents and coaches and teachers all had that same sort of sentiment. Where I was at in Northwest, it went off without a hitch. Everything was done really well. I credit the athletic department for doing it, and I imagine that sounded like it was the same process everywhere else. So it was great to have that sort of a little bit of normalcy back on the first Friday of August football, and then obviously we'll get into it here coming up at the end of the week in September football.
Yeah, as you said, I think a big shout out goes out to all the athletic departments in the area that put on these football games and did so responsibly, requiring social distancing, or whether they limited fans, whatever it was, masks. Everyone in the area did a fantastic job putting on week 1 of high school football to make sure that we got the ball rolling. And now that it's rolling, we're going to hope to keep the momentum going. But a lot of great games on our airwaves, as I said, some of them a little more lopsided than others. But let's go ahead and recap some of the action, and we'll let some of the guys dive in here and join us and tell us a little bit about the matchup and what happened. And Nathan, I think, like you said, again, a lot of the overarching thought on these first couple of games here was just that teams were happy to be back out on the field playing football. But let's go ahead and dive right into our first game that we had on J98, and that was the one that Jacob Vincent had a chance to call. It was the Central Rebels taking on East Prairie in a game that was a last-minute replacement for Central, as they were scheduled to play St. Vincent to open up the season. St. Vincent has a COVID issue on the team. East Prairie steps in at the final hour, and they jump on the field. And unfortunately for East Prairie, things did not go all that well, as Central, they started their season off on the right foot as they throttled East Prairie 43-2 on J98. 43-2 was the final score there. And Deshaun Welch, he was the star of the show. He picked up right where he left off with 4 touchdowns and over 100 rushing yards in week number 1.
And now it's first down on the 20-yard line. High snap to Bridges, gets it off to Welch. He's got open room in front of him, looking for the end zone. Give him 6. Deshaun Welch, the first score of the season for the Central Rebels. It's 6-0. The Rebels on top at home. 4th and goal. 3 running backs behind Bridges. Bridges is going to hand it off to the last one. Looked like it was Welch. He punches it in, and the Rebels score yet again the second touchdown of the game for Deshaun Welch on the 1-yard carry from the right hash mark. They're going to hand it off to Welch, and he breaks one defender, breaks another defender, has room in front of him. He's on the 20, open room in front. There goes Welch. Give him 6 more. 1st and 15 now. A hand off to Welch, bounces out towards the right side on the hash mark. He's got room to run again. There goes Welch. Open land in front. 4 touchdowns on the night for Deshaun Welch.
And there you go. That's Deshaun Welch with his highlight reel performance, Jacob. I mean, that was your first chance getting to see him out there. And, I mean, he put on an absolute clinic.
Yeah, he was as good as advertised coming into the game. I mean, last season, one of the few 1,000-yard rushers in the area, had over 15 touchdowns on the season, a tremendous runner of the ball. I think what was more impressive in that game as well, he didn't even have 10 carries in the ball game. He might have had 7 or 8 carries, and you heard 4 of the touchdowns right there. At least 3 of them were over 25 yards, and he had the 1-yard carry to finally get it in on a back end of a crazy play. But just watching him play, and hats off to the offensive line because they were opening up good enough holes for him. The secondary, they were hitting him. It didn't matter. He'd break 1 or 2 tackles, and then there was nobody after that. He's got the speed to go along with it, so it didn't matter. He just looking behind him, saying, "So long, I'm into the end zone."
Yeah, he was pretty much runner-up for our athlete of the week with his performance. As you said, 4 touchdowns. And on only 8 carries, we got the numbers from Coach Schweiss, 8 carries, and he put up 4 touchdowns. So every other time he touched the ball, he was finding his way into the end zone. We knew Deshaun Welch was going to be great coming into this game, certainly. The question mark coming into this game was how well the starting quarterback was going to play in the game, as it was a new guy taking over in Jet Bridges. Now, people know him from his brother Jake Bridges, who was a fantastic quarterback for Central. Now Jet gets his turn taking over the keys to the car. What do you got?
Well, before we get into the highlight, before the game, I was talking to Coach Schweiss, and I asked him, I was like, well, how's the offense going to be a little bit different? Obviously, you guys ran the ball a lot last year. They only threw it for 459 yards. We found out that Jet Bridges, he can throw the ball a little bit.
Yeah, he certainly can. Let's hear the highlight here as Jet Bridges. He certainly can. He can really sling the rock around the field.
The snap to Bridges, looking left, throwing over the top. It's a good catch there by Mannion. Brian has room to run. He's got a blocker in front on the 25-yard line. A blocker from behind gets him still on his feet, tackled into the end zone. The freshman, a 79-yard pass play. Bridges to Bryant, and it's another touchdown for the Central Rebels. 20-0, and just like that, it's a 3-score game.
Now, Jet Bridges got the ball rolling on that play, but he certainly got a lot of help.
Yeah, Joe Bryant, a freshman, as you heard right there. I thought it was Grant Mannion at first. It was hard to see at the start of it, but Joe Bryant, he ended up with 2 touchdowns in the game. One of their backup quarterbacks, who was also a freshman, came in later in the game, a lefty, his last name of Murphy. He threw the ball pretty well as well, but Joe Bryant, he is a freshman coming into it, and I talked to Coach Weiss afterwards. He said, we don't play freshmen a lot here at Central, and obviously they go on a run, 6 straight district titles, 10 wins every single season. It's going to be tough to get playing time as a freshman, even as a sophomore. So Joe Bryant coming in, and he was a starter coming into the game as well. He was not a substitution. So he came in and obviously made a difference right away, showed off the speed, showed off the athleticism, and the versatility that he has on the outside part of the field.
Yeah, really impressive performance by the young man Bryant there as only a freshman. But Jet Bridges was certainly impressive in his own right, as you said. They didn't throw the ball a ton last year, only about 489 yards through the air. Jet Bridges accounted for 100 yards and a touchdown in week 1 through the air, so they're already on track to shatter what they did last year through the air. But Deshaun Welch, of course, as we said, he was our Applebee's of Farmington player of the game, almost the Applebee's athlete of the week. But we had a chance to catch up with him after the game, and he says that he was excited to see some of his teammates who don't get to play a lot get in some action on senior night.
Yeah, I'm feeling excited. I'm glad my friends got in and got to play. I did this last year, so I'm kind of used to it. So seeing my friends that don't really get to play get in and have fun, I'm loving it.
Now, it is going to be a much tougher matchup for Central here coming up on Friday when they take on Scott City, who was the runner-up in Class 2 from last year. But I feel like this Central team's got to be sky high and confident as all get out after the performance that they put up in week 1.
Absolutely. Offensively, last year, they were a one-sided ball club. 86% run plays compared to 14% or pass plays. That's going to be a lot different this year, as seen already in week number 1. Now, obviously, the defense is going to be the big key coming into week number 2. Scott City's defense is going to be much better. Now, Scott City, they only lost 2 games last year, one in the regular season, then they lost in the state championship to a very good Luther North team. Scott City this year, they only won their first game over Dexter, a team that went 1-9 last year, 18-15. So there is a little bit of drop-off in talent and possibly athleticism, but Dexter might be a little bit better as well, going 1-9 a season ago. So it'll be interesting to see. Scott City is definitely going to be better than East Prairie, and I know Coach Schweiss knows that. He talked about knowing the head coach, being good friends with the head coach from Scott City as he coached at Perryville. a few seasons back as well. So he respects them, and he's looking forward to it. It should be a fun matchup, and especially to see what this Central team can do.
I think the encouraging thing for Coach Schweiss too has to be that his team went out and did this with 2 days, a day and a half of preparation of knowing that they were going to play East Prairie. I would imagine he's going to be pretty thankful to have a full week to prepare for Scott City. And like I said, if they can go out and do what they did on just a couple of days preparation, they get a full week under their belt. Who knows what they can do on the offensive side of the ball? I mean, we already saw a big time explosive performance from them. And truthfully, they could have pitched a shutout too if not for just one mistake.
Yeah, it was just that was a crazy play too. I mean, Justin Bridges, the punter and kicker for the Central Rebels, he's in the back of the end zone, got about 5 yards behind him, and it was just a little bit too high. He did get a hand on it, tried to scoop it back up, and just hit it out of the back of the end zone. So either way, it was probably going to be a safety, but like you said, easily could have been a shutout as well.
So an impressive performance for Central in Game 1. Jacob, I mean, just what were your biggest takeaways from the game?
Obviously, I mean, Deshaun Welch, everybody knew him coming in. He's only going to get better, and he's only a junior. He's still got another year left after this year. And it was funny talking to Coach Schweiss after the game. He said, we brought him up as a freshman in district time, and he just kind of went off. And he said, that was probably my stupidest coaching decision to not bring him up as a freshman. And I thought that was pretty funny because obviously a phenomenal talent. Don't get them too often. But now you pair that with Jeff Bridges, who can throw it through the air. You got Joe Bryan outside. You got Grant Mannion. You got Slade Schweiss. There's a lot of threats on that team through the air, and that's going to open up even more avenues for Welch on the ground.
Yeah, a lot of toys on that offense. That's what Coach Schweiss said to me this summer. And now we'll head on over to the game that featured Chad Speaker and the Farmington Knights taking on the North County Raiders. We'll take a quick timeout. We'll come back and talk about that next. That's coming up here on the Kohl's Tractor and Equipment Football Roundtable here on J98.
Mark Tody here with a look at my life away from the radio station. Once I get home, I usually melt into my recliner, which I got from Chris and Jamie at Patsy's Furniture in Park Hills. Heck, sometimes I don't make it out of
Welcome back here on the Coles Tractor and Equipment Football Roundtable. We're live from Applebee's in Farmington. Brandon Pavlino alongside Nathan Kurtz, Chad Speaker, and the one and only Stephen Kapler spinning the dials on the other end of the table. You can't see him on the stream, but we're glad to have you guys here.
Couldn't believe how many dials he's spinning.
He is spinning all kinds of dials. We're glad to have everybody alongside us here on J98. We also welcome in everybody who wants to join us. You can head over to the J98 Regional Radio KREI. It's all of it. It's under one umbrella. MIMO Info on Facebook. You can watch us.
Or MIMO Info Sports Stream.
The MIMO Info Sports Stream is also available there. You can go to access that at MIMOinfo.com on sports, or go to YouTube and type in MIMO Info Sports. We do have some guests on the line here getting set to join us here in just a moment, as we're going to begin our recap and talk about the game that Chad Speaker was on the call for, with Farmington on the road in Bonne Terre at North County. Before we go to the recap, I want to make sure that we have our guests here. We have Coach Eric Krupe. We've also got a couple of players, Files and Westbrook, there. Just want to double check and see, are you guys there? Can you guys hear us?
Yeah, we can hear you. I can hear you guys. Can you hear me?
All right. Hey, that's a good test. We're using some new stuff. Thanks, guys. First of all, guys, let's ask you, not only was it the first game, I mean, it comes out of this pandemic. What was it like just getting back to action? Was it almost a relief?
I'll let you guys handle that one.
Yeah, it was. Going into it in the summer, not really sure if we were going to have school or not, and then, actually getting up to the week of the game it was exciting. It was fun.
Was that Caden?
Yeah, that's Caden.
Yeah, and Wyatt, you've been in, more than one of these North County rivalry games. What's that rivalry game like?
Oh, the Farmington North County rivalry. It's a whole different animal there. It's two teams from St. Francis County just going at it, and you can tell it's probably each team's best game of the year. So,
I talked to Caden after the ball game a little bit, and Wyatt didn't get a chance to catch up with you going into the fourth quarter. You guys are down, so we're going to go through that recap. We'll kind of ask you guys how you saw the different plays and kind of your thoughts as the game went through, and talk to Coach a little bit about it as well.
All right, so let's go ahead and start that recap. And as you said, we'll hear from both Caden and Wyatt and Coach Krupe all along the way. So first and foremost, obviously Farmington with the big-time win in week one. It was a gutted-out kind of win, a 30-14 the final score. Is Farmington, they rallied and were able to come from behind and defeat North County. But Farmington, they got out to an early lead as they found the end zone first with an 11-play, 58-yard drive.
This one toward the end zone, and Robinson hauls it in. Touchdown, Farmington! A 19-yard touchdown strike. Files throws it to the 6'7", Isaiah Robinson, and the first touchdown of the year for the Farmington Knights. Farmington on top, 6-0. So, Caden, your first completion of the year, and it goes for a touchdown to a guy, but the only thing he knows how to do is catch touchdown passes. He caught one pass last year. It was a touchdown. His first catch this year, it's a touchdown. Take us through the play, if you would.
Well, going into it, I knew that I wanted to look for Isaiah. He's big. He's been doing really well in practice, catching the football and stuff, so I had some faith in him. A lot of pressure came from the left side, and I just saw him and just, kind of threw it to him, I guess.
Yeah, you were moving a little bit to your right, and what I was impressed with Isaiah on that play is he didn't just go up the field and kind of stop and look and wait. He kept coming across the end zone kind of with you, didn't he?
I think we might have lost him there for a second, but I mean, hey, when you're throwing to an Isaiah Robinson, I'll tell you what, man, you're in good shape, because when you got a 6'7" athlete out there that you can throw the ball up to and go get it, that certainly helps. I mean, that's a pretty much a quarterback's dream to have an opportunity to throw it up to a guy like that.
Coach Krupe, I know that Josh Hain calls your plays, and I know you are really focused on the defense, but are you kind of in connection with Josh, or does he kind of run autonomous on that? And did you know that was going to be that play coming up?
Well, I have full confidence in Josh in understanding what the defense is giving him and calling the plays. They're going to put us in the best position to have success. Now I'll talk with Josh when it comes to game management, timing, things along those lines. What are we thinking? Do you have one play? Do you have two plays here? Things along those lines. But he does a really good job of understanding how to attack defenses and what's open for us as a program.
As a defensive guy, Coach, that was the only score of the first half. So your team throws a shutout in the first half. I imagine that had to make you pretty happy.
Well, anytime you can go through a half scoreless, obviously it's a good thing. If they can't score, obviously they can't win a football game. But we had to stop there within the red zone to keep them out of the end zone towards the end of the first half there. Our kids did a really good job. One thing we talk about is making sure that we continue to play, and nothing is given, everything is earned. And until that ball crosses the goal line, you've got to make them earn every inch. And we did a good job of, again, they got to the red zone once in that first half, but being able to shut the door, create a fumble, and get the ball back for our offense.
So you guys go up 7-0 in the first half. That's where it stands. Then you come out to start the second half, and we're going to play a highlight here. You guys got punched in the mouth a little bit as North County. They came out in just the second play of the second half. They found the end zone.
Reed's back in the gun, runs the straight keeper this time, slams through the middle. He's got open field ahead. It's a foot race now with Hia Westbrook. Reed to the far sideline to the 20, to the 10, to the end zone, touchdown. Uh-oh, I didn't mean to put Wyatt on the spot right there. Wyatt was the only guy with a chance at him there, and we'll ask Coach Krupe about that play. But Wyatt, that was a heck of a quarterback on North County. He's a guy that's started for more than 1 year for North County, and he's not only big but fast. Nolan Reed, he was a hard guy to catch up with, I guess.
Yes, he was. He definitely got a lot faster from last year, and he was a lot tougher to play this year.
Coach, you usually, when I ask you about that, you usually say, okay, we missed a hole, we didn't fit right. Kind of take us through that play if you would.
Well, as soon as that creased us, I knew exactly what happened. I knew why it had creased us. And so we ended up making a couple adjustments after that play was over with to try to negate any more that go around.
Yeah, and you did. It was really their only really big play of the game.
So, but after North County puts up that touchdown, they go for two. They fail to get it. You guys then come out and respond. 11 plays, 61 yards. But you guys get the field goal on the board as Cale Krause gives you 3 points and helps you guys extend the lead. I want to know, Coach, I mean, you've talked to Chad about it, but how awesome is it to have a guy that can go out there and put up 3 points really whenever you guys get within range? That's got to be such a useful weapon.
Oh, it is. And it's one of those things that, you can't take for granted at the high school level. When you watch football on TV and you see it at the college and NFL level, obviously all those kickers have tremendous range, but you don't find that very often at the high school level. And for us to be able to have a weapon like that is great. It's critical to our success. And, it goes beyond just being able to kick field goals. The fact that every kickoff hit the end zone and North County had to start from the 20-yard line every time we scored. That in and of itself is a weapon to make a team go 80 yards every time they touch the football.
Yeah, it certainly helps out in a lot of different ways to have a guy with a big leg. And there it helps you guys out on the offensive side, put you guys up by 4. But then North County, they respond. Their second consecutive 80-yard drive, as even the boots of the end zone doesn't help. They marched the distance, and it went 12 plays as the Raiders went on top for the first time in the ballgame.
It's a triple I backfield once again. They give us the C strand. He's the last back of the formation, and he plows over the left tackle and goes in 2 yards for the score. And the Raiders are in front for the first time tonight, 12-10 over Farmington. So the extra point, they go for 2, up 14-10. I want to bring Judd Cunningham into the conversation. I think Judd's joining us now on the line. Judd, a senior leader on this team, and a two-way guy right in the middle of the action, nose guard and center. But, Judd, you've been through so many battles. You've been through these rivalry battles with North County. What's the feeling? What's the conversation like going into the fourth quarter with you guys trailing now 14-10?
We just got to trust our defense. I had full confidence in our guys the entire time in the fourth quarter. I didn't really doubt us. But, we just trust our defense and trust our offense, especially coming in after we get stops.
Judd, are you a rah-rah guy? Are you a guy that, will get up and talk to people and say, let's go? Or are you more of a kind of a leader by action or who is that guy for you guys?
I'm more one of those rah-rah guys, I guess. Wyatt's more of those lead by action, and more one of the quieter types on the team whenever he's on the field.
Well, it certainly helps to have the loud guys out there too. So, but hey, you guys go down, and then you guys are able to fire back up and get going. And Chad made a note here that Braden Botkin in last year's game, he ran for 127 yards on only 6 carries. But obviously this year, offense was at a premium, and yards were a lot harder to come by. But midway through the fourth quarter, with a goal line in sight, Botkin was not denied.
Files under center once again. 2 wings for him. Gives to Bodkin. Bodkin rumbling over the right side. Breaks 2 tackles. Slamming his way forward. Looking for the end zone. And he does it.
I had Bodkin breaking 6 tackles on that play. Coach, when you guys ran that back on the film, do you recall how many tackles he broke on that touchdown run?
Well, that was just a tremendous
Files
run.
under center. 4th and 9. Files back to pass under heavy pressure.
Whoops. Go ahead, Coach.
Well, that was a tremendous run by Braden, and that's what we've come to expect from him. He's really a fullback in our offense. So he does a really good job with what he's asked to do. He runs hard. He runs behind his pads, and him being able to plow through multiple defenders to score is not unexpected, and it was a heck of a run by him.
And Judd, let me ask you, with you guys obviously victorious, you run your streak to 7 in a row in this rivalry series, but how much tougher was the battle along the lines in this one, compared to last year's North County team?
Last year's North County team had a lot higher pad level than they did this year for sure, and they were a lot more solid up front than they have been in the past couple of years for sure.
Well, so this one went down to the wire as after you guys end up getting that touchdown, you go back up. North County, they're still trying to take the lead back, and it was 4th down at their own 28-yard line, but the Farmington defense, they held it up, and they gave it to their offense with a short field, and just when it looked like the Raiders might come up with a stop, it was a big play, perhaps the play of the game. Farmington's Brady
Files under
Cook.
center. 4th and 9. Files back to pass under heavy pressure. Rolls to his right. Fires it into the end zone. It's just a prayer. And it's caught! It's caught by the Knights! And sometimes prayers are answered. Brady Cook hauled it in at the 1-yard line. A gain of 25 yards, setting up a 1st and goal.
Here you talk about swing plays in a game, and Coach Krupe can ask you about 2 of them. North County goes for it on 4th down in their own territory from their own 28-yard line. Your defense stops them, gets the ball in their territory. You go for it on 4th down, and Brady Cook just makes a spectacular play. Those were 2 huge moments that, you already had the lead, but that made it that 2-score game and really put a stamp on it.
No doubt that catch by Brady, Caden put it up there where only he could get it, and Brady went up and got it. And the thing that I like about that is he was not passive. He was aggressive. He went up and got the football, and he was covered by a bigger defensive back. But that was a heck of a play, and I really do believe it was really the turning point in the football game where we were able to get some separation from North County because they did a great job all night. They're a much improved ball club, and that play finally allowed us to get some of that separation where we were able to get away a little bit.
I think that Caden has left us, but I think Wyatt is still with us. And Wyatt, where were you on that play? How did you see it?
I was actually on the play, but once I saw Caden roll out to the right and him kind of, as you said in the interview, he saw Wyatt launched it up there. And I saw Brady jump, and like Ruby said, he wasn't passive. He was aggressive to it. Ended up hauling it in.
Yeah, and it wasn't a touchdown, but it was a huge play. Set you up at the 1, and from there you punched it in.
Yeah, the Knights, they punched it in, made it a 2-score game. Then it was Caden Files who shook loose for a 51-yard touchdown late to put you guys up on top by a final margin. Final score was 30-14 as Farmington comes out on top over North County. Chetta, I don't know if you want to run through the numbers, ask these guys a couple more questions about the game. What a great game. This is such a great rivalry between these 2 schools, Coach. I just want to know kind of as far as kicking off the season with this game and you guys battling it out with North County kind of back and forth. Was this kind of a perfect epitome of what you guys wanted to have in Week 1 Friday night rivalry, great back and forth kind of game?
Well, yeah, this is a first here, at least since I've been here. Typically, we've played them in Week 2, so each team's had an opportunity to see what they're all about and get some film on the opponent, the other one. But it was week 1. We didn't have any film on North County because they hadn't jamboreed. We knew they were going to be a better ball club than the previous season, but we really hadn't gotten any eyes on what they looked like in 2020. So, it's definitely a challenge when that rivalry game is week 1 and it's the opener. But our kids really responded, and the thing that I'm proud of the most, is that our kids finished. And we talk about being the tougher team in the fourth quarter and being able to finish ball games, and our kids were able to do that.
Coach, it seemed like your leadership really helped you out there. I thought Caden Files, just in terms of some of the decisions he made, his ability to get to the third level of the option while drawing people to him, opened up some running room for guys like Felker. I didn't obviously, you graded out, but that's kind of what I saw from my vantage point. How did you kind of grade out your team on this game?
Well, I think that, everybody likes 49-6 victories, but I think we learned a lot more about ourselves in this type of a ball game than we would have if it was a 49-6 type of a football game, because we did have to fight back in the fourth quarter. And, we've got a lot of brand new faces that really hadn't played any varsity football yet, maybe on special teams, but that's about it. A lot of those guys, whether it be the Jake Bishops or the Brady Cooks or the Jaden Oilers of the world, they're playing both ways. And so that's a big ask. So I do believe that, as the game wore on, those younger guys, they started to get a feel for what varsity football is like on a Friday night. And then, our older guys that do have experience, the 3 that are on right now between Caden, Wyatt, and Judd, and then, other guys like your Kel Krauses, Braden Botkins, Drew Felkers, kids that have experience, they help pull us through when the going got tough and help pull us through for that victory.
Coach, since we have you on right now, we'll do a preview segment a little bit later on from the coming matchup, but we'll have your game this week on KREI. It'll be your home opener against Potosi, and we'll go ahead and take advantage of having you with us during this segment here real quick. I know that you've been preparing for the Trojans. What are kind of some of your first initial impressions of that Potosi team who shut out their opponent in week 1?
Yeah, Potosi, we saw them in the summer at a camp, and they've got some big defensive tackles. They're a good football team. They're a little bit different than they've been the last few years. I think schematically they're more similar to back when Coach Casey was the head football coach there. You're going to get some 2-back. They're going to spread it out a little bit in some shotgun sets. Defensively, they run a 4-4 cover 3. So it's going to be a good ball club. It's going to be a good ball game. And, anytime you face a team from the local area, it's like we talk about all the time, Chad, it's going to be a dogfight.
Coach, I have a question for you. As you had a chance to get to watch some film on Potosi and prepare for this game, I had a chance to get out there and do their training camp report this summer. Dylan Coleman, their starting quarterback, is going to be entering what is essentially his 4th year as the starting quarterback. And he is really a talented young man. And Coach Wyrick, in his first year taking over the program, he talked a lot about wanting to maybe add the throwing into the offense. As far as what you see from Dylan Coleman and how you guys are preparing for him as a skill player, what did you see from him on tape?
Well, they do a good job of moving the pocket with him. They'll keep him in the pocket and throw some vertical routes with him. But a lot of what they like to do is they like to get him outside of the pocket with your boots and your waggles and those types of concepts and move the pocket with him. And he's a good football player, and we've got to be ready to keep him under control on Friday night.
I think we've got Wyatt and Judd still with us on the program. And Wyatt, in a season that, let's be honest, we weren't positive we were even going to be able to have this season. What's it going to mean to you guys to have, your first home game of the year?
Oh, it's gonna be awesome, especially me, Caden, and Judd senior year getting to play our home opener against a team county away. It's gonna be fun. So we're looking forward to it.
Judd, let's get your thought. You go into winning one big rivalry game already, so a big start to the season. But you guys have some new construction. The community's put money into this program. A nice big entrance. You know that even with the pandemic, you're going to have people there supporting you. What's it going to mean to you? To be able to play at home in a season that we weren't quite sure was going to happen.
It's gonna be amazing. I've been playing with all these guys since I've been little, and seeing the renovations that they're doing at the field, it's great. I love the new entrances that they're doing. But yeah, I'm really excited, and I know the team's really excited to get hopefully another win at home.
Guys, we're doing what we can this year and trying to keep it social distant. You've joined us virtually tonight, and we really appreciate it. Stephen Cavler's done a great job bringing you in, and our folks in the studio. And thanks so much for staying with us on the air and making this happen as we invent new ways to do just about everything. Coach Krupe and your players, Caden Files, Judd Cunningham, Wyatt Westbrook. We really appreciate you guys being on the air with us, and we look forward to Friday night and covering you all season.
Well, no, thank you guys. Appreciate everything you do for the local sports around this area, and Chad for everything you do for us. And we're just happy to be a part of it.
All right, guys. Well, hey, we appreciate you guys hopping on here, joining us here on the Coles Tractor and Equipment Football Roundtable for Week 1 of high school football. We'll come back and continue recapping Week 1. That's next here on J98. We're live here in Farmington, Missouri at Applebee's. Hey, come join us. What is it out there, 32? The 32, the road. I'm saying, wait, what's oh, it's Karsh Boulevard. I guess that's right. I think it is. I think it's one of those like 32 Karsh Boulevard type things. We're here in Farmington at Applebee's. You can see us right off the highway. You can come on over and join us, grab a great bite to eat, and you can also listen to us talk some football. We just had a chance to talk to Eric Krupe and some Farmington Knights football players about their Week 1 win over North County. We also talked about our game that Central toppled East Prairie pretty handily. Now we'll move over and head up to Jefferson County and talk to Nathan Gertz about his game, one of the best games that we had on the airwaves in Week 1 between the Hillsboro Hawks and the Northwest Lions. Northwest, they got out with a big-time win, but they had to work awfully hard to get there, as they got a breakout performance, did the Northwest Lions, from their senior quarterback, and they were racking up points to start off a new football season as they knocked off Hillsboro 37-27. Northwest, they took the opening drive and marched right down the field behind quarterback Trey Davis, who completed a 20-yard pass to Andrew Lenzen to get into the red zone before finding his fellow senior again for the game's first points.
Trey Davis in the shotgun. The tailback to his right is Veland. Two receivers set to the near far side of the field. Davis takes the snap, rolls right, throws, end zone. It is caught. Did the receiver get his feet in? Yes, touchdown! Northwest Lions. Andrew Lenzen makes the catch on the out pattern. Far corner of the end zone, and the 9-yard touchdown puts Northwest on top. 6-0, 5:21 left in the first quarter.
So Trey Davis wasted no time in putting his foot down and saying, hey, I'm here and I'm ready to go.
Yeah, this was a team that was really run heavy last year, but as a whole offensively, they were kind of mediocre. They averaged about 280 yards a game last year. 170 of that was on the ground. So they passed just enough to keep you honest, but they never dominated teams. Trey Davis went out there and made some plays throwing the football early in this game, not just on that opening drive, but he hits a deep ball to Andrew Lenzen on the second drive of the game. And Lenzen, if you remember the Jeremy Prothrow play from Alabama football, it was that same catch along the sidelines. He wrapped his hands around a defender's body and hauled it in at the goal line. That led to Trey Davis sneaking in a touchdown. And then the very next play, Hillsboro has on fourth down, one of their punts, the snap, go over the punter's head out of the back of the end zone. They're down 16-0. That looked like a game where not only was Davis going to show you he was making strides as a quarterback throwing the ball, Northwest was going to run Hillsboro off the field. However, obviously, the tide turned over the course of the rest of the game, and it turned into a really fun back-and-forth affair.
Yeah, how about that? How about the grittiness from Hillsboro? You're chasing 16-0. You're facing a big school like Northwest, and they rallied.
Yeah, really, I think a lot of encouraging signs for that team. In the first game with Bill Saharsky, the longtime assistant, taking over as head coach. And the thing is, they rallied behind their run game. They still kept running the football first and foremost, but Jackson Patterson and Austin Romaine, a couple of outstanding sophomores, they made some big plays. Romaine especially ripped off a 51-yard run, I think the drive right after they gave up the safety, and that allowed them to get into the end zone. Griffin Ray, their first-time starting quarterback, honestly, I thought he showed a lot of composure. He got better running the football as the game went along. He made some big throws, and he obviously got them within a score there in the late stages of the fourth quarter.
Well, that was the question I wanted to ask you, was about the Hillsboro quarterback, because that was something that was an unknown relatively going in. You were privy to that information, but it was still an unknown for the masses. And they have a junior in Junior Arnold, who's another really good quarterback, but they decided to go young. They decided to go with the sophomore Griffin Ray, who primarily played with the freshman team last season. The stage and the moment wasn't too big for him, in your words.
I don't think so. There were some moments early that were not great. He got stuck into third and long a couple times in the first quarter, and they are going to have to work on pass protection because he got sacked twice in the first half, and the redshirt was completely untouched on his way to bringing him to the ground. That said, he did sort of settle in at the end of the second half when they asked him to make a couple of throws over the middle of the field and later in the ball game as well. And he, like I said, he got better as a runner. He was a lot stronger. He had a great 25-yard run to set up his own touchdown run in the second half. I was impressed, and he took every snap too. So I think he is, in their eyes, the go-to guy. It's not really still a competition at the moment. And I think he did enough in week one where, I mean, save for the interception he threw at the end of the game, he managed things really well. It's where I think they're going to have a lot of confidence with him going forward.
Yeah, and I mean, like you said, I mean, you're chasing 16-0. That, as a sophomore, as a guy who played primarily as a freshman with the freshman team, you could very easily be rattled in that moment against that opponent. And Griffin Ray stood tall and managed to keep his team in the ballgame and give them a chance to win. And really, that's what you're looking for on a young quarterback in a situation like that. So good start for him. And another thing, too, is as you talked about kind of the throwing side of things for that Hillsboro offense. I know Coach Zaharsky, when I had a chance to get out there this summer, he talked a lot about throwing when they want to and not when they have to. Sounds like, though, they found themselves in a lot of spots where they had to be throwing.
They got behind the chains too much early on, and they threw in some spots where they were not comfortable. That said, because they got enough reps with it, I think that allowed them to settle in and hit a couple of big plays to Tyler Watson especially. He was their top receiver. But at the end of the day, being down, and I mentioned that too in postgame, it felt like the week one fundamentals ended up being the difference in this one. This is probably a one-score game for them with the ball with about 4 minutes to go, as opposed to two scores if you don't have a couple of penalties, including one that wiped out a kickoff return for a touchdown in the second half. And also, of course, we mentioned the botched snap that led to a safety. They struggled on special teams. They missed extra points. They racked up more penalty yardage than Northwest, despite ended up having more total offensive yardage. So if they clean up the fundamentals, they beat not only a solid football team, but a Class 6 football team. So while it hurts that they didn't come away with that one, they're going to be, I think, pretty excited about what they took away from that.
Well, let's go ahead and hear how the Northwest Lions were able to put this one away. As you said, Hillsboro trailing 16-0 in the first half. They rallied as the Lions, they only led 30-27 with less than 7 minutes to play, but Trey Davis was in a groove, and he hit another deep ball to seal the win.
On first down, play action fake out of the eye. Davis looking to throw, winds up deep down the field. Got a man, Michael Davis. Hit him in stride. Touchdown, Northwest Lions. Another dime by Trey Davis as Michael Davis beats everybody down the field with his electrifying speed. And Northwest hits it big yet again. A 35-yard touchdown completion. And the Lions extend their lead here with 5 minutes to go. They're up 36-27.
Trey Davis, 242 yards through the air, 4 touchdowns, and was the Applebee's player of the game. I mean, you can't do a whole lot better than that as a starting quarterback. You're going to go for nearly 250 and 4 touchdowns. I think Coach Tenyus will take that any day of the week.
I think he may have peaked at like 150 yards last year, so this was easily his best game since taking over as a starter last season, and they were replacing their top 2 receiving targets from a year ago in Dalton Hograve and Jack Watson. So credit to Andrew Lenzen, Brady Cutter, and Michael Davis. They all stepped up and played well. Michael Davis is a guy Tenyus has mentioned in passing every time we've talked. I was kind of stunned. He started the game at tailback. They're trying to work him in, and the blazing speed he showcased, whether he was running or catching the football, was a big part of that. But yeah, there's a lot of weapons there. The thing they were looking for is a chance to get some balance and a chance for their quarterback to take a next step. It kind of feels like Trey Davis is, at least through a week of actual competition, is up to his game in a big way.
Well, and I think Coach Tenyus, he echoed that sentiment as he was beaming after the game.
I'm very proud of him. Like I said, you just see his growth as a player, and not only his arm strength has improved, but just his awareness. And there were multiple times where there was a lineman that got through our blitzing backer, and our running backs, Jeffrey Hughes and Chase Veal did a great job picking him up. And Trey was able to slide up, keep his eyes downfield, and deliver a great ball. So it's hard when you have a rush coming at you. The way they were playing us, they did a good job taking away our run, and they were squeezing us inside. So we had a lot of stuff. We had mismatches on the outside.
So Northwest, they're going to look to build on the season-opening win when they visit St. Charles next week. Hillsboro, they'll be on the road. It doesn't get any easier for the Hawks. They're going to be at Jackson next Friday. Nathan, real quick, one big takeaway from this game.
I think the big thing for me is that if Hillsboro can work on the little things, they're going to be in a position to win every game. And that's with a run-first offense, which says a lot about the talent of the guys that they have when they give it to either Jackson Patterson or Austin Romaine or the newest faces that they have in this offense, like Griffin Ray running the show. If they clean stuff up, they would have been only down a score late in that game. So I think if they clean that stuff up, they will be in great position. I'll also just add this on that front for Hillsboro. They started on the road at Northwest Class 16. They'll play arguably the best team in Class 5 a year ago, Jackson, on the road next week. Even when they come home week 3, it's Cape Girardeau Central. They do not shy away from competition. That was a big part of the reason that they started 0-3. I think if you ask any coach last year and you'll ask any coach that they play in conference this year, they'll say the same thing. Whatever record they put up through the first 3 weeks, not going to be indicative of how good they are. I was struck with, at the end of the day, despite a loss, a pretty good Hillsboro football team.
Yeah, good game. Great game on KJEF. And Nathan, we appreciate your thoughts there. And we'll head on over to the man who's been silent for the most part here on this one. And we'll check out the game that Stephen Cavler had a chance to call. It was Festus clobbering St. Genevieve, 41-13, the final score on the opening night of the 2020-21 football season. The Dragons, they came out strong on the defensive side, getting a stop on 4th and 1 in Tiger territory. But just 5 plays later, Zach Boyer took the end around to put the Dragons up early.
8, and they're looking to go quickly. Here's the snap. Here's that jet sweep again out to Zach Boyer. He's got blockers. Gets to the outside. Needs one block to get in. Stretches out. Touchdown, Dragons. Zach Boyer takes the jet sweep from Aiden Boyer. And just like that, 7:01 to go here in the first quarter. St. Genevieve strikes first, 6-0, extra point pending.
And Steven, you said at that point you started to think that, hey, St. Gen, they're going to do some good things after the stop and the score. It looked like they were going to be in shape.
Well, I mean, talking to Coach Wyke and his coaching staff throughout the week, prepping up for that game, knowing that they lost 22 seniors on that team from last year, even the coaches were under the impression like, we just got to make ourselves better. We got to make sure we account for ourselves. We got to do things the right way. And then they get a stop on 4th and 1. I mean, Festus has been running the ball real well. They stop them on 4th and 1 in Festus territory. 5 plays later, go down to score. I'm thinking, all right, here come the Dragons. We're going to have a good game. And then after that, it was all Festus, unfortunately.
Yeah, the Tigers, they bounced back quick as it was junior quarterback Cole Rickerman. He connected with Dylan Wagner for an 8-yard touchdown to tie the game.
Rickerman takes a snap looking for the fade route in the corner, and it's there. Touchdown. He was covered. He was covered like stank on a cow patty. It's like Dylan Wagner snatches the ball out of the air. And an incredible backside fade throw from Cole Rickerman right on the money where you want it to go. Touchdown, 2:32 to go here in the first quarter.
Yeah, you could probably hear us all laughing at that one. That's a great – hey, listen, Stephen Cavler, man, he is our resident Texan now that Andy Humphrey is gone. And so he knows everything about boots and the rodeos and all that good stuff, and he's going to get you some good little quotes in there as well, man. But, hey, Festus, they respond. They punch him in the mouth. They tie the game up. And then after that, the floodgates open, and we're just going to run right to it. As again, the score stood 7-7 after quarter number 1. Then it was Festus senior running back Austin Anderson who scored 3 times in the second quarter, including a pick 6, which put the Tigers out in front for good.
Ball is handed off, cut up the middle, down to the 5-yard line. That's in the end zone. Austin Anderson worms his way, finds the right holes, and he goes scampering into the end zone. That one is intercepted by Austin Anderson, and there's no one in front of him. That's a pick 6 caught. That one is Austin Anderson. He cuts it back across the 20. 15, cuts back 10. Still on his feet. 5, still on his feet. 2, 1, stretches to the end zone. There's the call. Touchdown, Austin Anderson. His 3rd touchdown.
So Tigers quarterback Cole Rickerman threw for 5 touchdowns on the day, including a pair to senior wide receiver Colin Doyle. But I'll tell you what, Steven, I mean, you talk about an offensive performance for the ages. The Festus Tigers, they could do no wrong.
Well, I mean, everything was working for him, and I got a little montage together there of Austin Anderson. That was 3 straight touchdowns from solely him. He scores the one on the 8-yard touchdown run there, comes back and was 2 plays later into the St. Genevieve drive after the kickoff. 1 play, second play of the drive, he gets the pick 6. So in a matter of 30 seconds, he's already put 2 touchdowns on the board. And then later on, it was the next Festus drive. They found him for the 20-yard touchdown pass. So really everything working in the favor after that first couple drives. Festus just trying to get settled in there on the road in St. Gen. A pretty decent crowd there, well socially distanced, but it's still a pretty good crowd there for the Dragons. And once they got settled in, man, it was pedal to the metal. Everything was clicking and working for them.
Yeah, and for Festus, 41-13, the final score. I mean, just from the jump, you go up 7-0, but then you get outscored 41-7 the rest of the way.
Steven, you talked about well socially distanced, including St. Genevieve's head coach.
Yeah, well, I was walking around the field during pregame trying to get a pregame interview, and I look up in the crow's nest where the coaches sit to film the game and maybe call plays from the press box, and there's Coach Wyke up there, and I go and I climb the ladder in the press box, and I go to poke my head up there and talk to him like, "Hey, Coach, can I grab you for a quick 5 minutes?" And he goes, "Well, I'm socially distancing myself from everyone." He had his mask on and everything. I was like, "Oh, I'll just not bother then." And so I talked to his son Ryan, who was stepping in as head coach for the evening. Talked to him after the game, and he had a little bit to say.
Yeah, I had a chance to talk to Coach Wyke, Ken Wyke, today about their game coming up on Friday. And so he's good to go. He is going to be back in action. His quarantine is concluded, so he'll be returning to the sideline here this week. But, I mean, all in all, I mean, you talk about an offensive performance by Festus and that one, Steven. Who are you most impressed by? I mean, as far as the skill players that you have to pick from there, and I'm gonna put you on the spot. You got to pick one. Who is the most impressive on Friday night for Festus.
On Festus, I mean, without question, no hesitation, it was Austin Anderson. I mean, he did everything. Talking about it strictly from a skill position point of view. But another person I wanna give a shout out to is Cole Rickerman. 5 touchdowns on the day, was nearly perfect. Threw 1 interception at the end of the first half. It was just as the clock expired, it was a Hail Mary. You can wipe that one off the stat sheet. It doesn't do anything against you. So nearly perfect. I mean, if I was able to get a QB rating on him, I'm sure it would be through the roof. 5 touchdowns. 1 meaningless pick, but skill position players. I mean, I'm going Austin Anderson all the way.
Steven, I'm going to quiz you here real quick to
Oh,
see
no,
how well
don't
you
do
know.
this.
Well, just to see if you caught this in your pregame preparation. How many touchdowns did Cole Rickerman throw all of last year?
0.
No, that'd be 5.
Oh,
so he
okay.
matched his total
He
in
matched
one.
it. Wow.
And then also, how many times did Austin Anderson touch the football last season on offense?
I believe I saw that. I believe it was once or twice.
It was 5
times. He caught the ball. He had 1 reception. And he ran the ball 4 times. I think is what it was.
This is an unbelievably different team for Festus, and the fact that they had such success in week 1 tells you. I mean, AJ Ofadale is already a splashy hire as a head coach, a guy who was last cutting it up with 4 future pros at Mizzou.
Yep.
To have the success they had right away, that tells you why he coached at places like Rockbridge in Columbia, powerhouses. They have a chance to be a good program for a while under his watch, but they are going to be an explosive offensive team right away. I would be the guy that struck me was Cole Rickerman, just because he was not asked to throw the ball at all last year, and now he's taken every snap from the shotgun, and they're going to throw it just as much as they run it. And for him to have the success he had right away in week 1, that's unbelievable. It's a huge boost, and also just a credit to his work ethic this offseason.
That's one thing that when I was talking to AJ Ofadale in pregame and the week before, he was saying how, and you talked to him a little bit about this too during the Pigskin preview, about how he just wants to run plays. He wants to get the ball in motion. He wants to get the ball to as many people as possible. He just wants to run high volume plays, and that's what they were doing. I mean, they would throw a pass play, and then the next thing you know, they're at the line. I felt like I was back in Texas watching the air raid offense day, and it was awesome.
That's good stuff. Yeah, it was a fun game and a really great showing for Festus in week 1. St. John will have a chance to rebound when they take on their crosstown rival in Valley Catholic coming up on Friday. You talk about it doesn't get any easier for St. John either, but Coach White, he feels good heading into that matchup. We'll have a chance to talk to him and preview that later on. But for now, that'll do it for our broadcast games. We'll take a quick timeout. When we come back, we'll go ahead and recap the rest of the week 1 action, take another break, and then at the final stretch, we'll go ahead and preview the upcoming week of action. So quick break, come back, and we'll recap the rest of week 1 here in the area in high school football. We're back live here in Farmington at Applebee's. Brandon Pavlino alongside the rest of the regional radio sports crew. My co-host Nathan Gertz. We've also got Chad Speaker, and then spinning the dials and making everything look good, Stephen Kavler. We are also available not only on J98 as per usual, but also if you go to the MyMo Info sports stream on YouTube, you can also check it out at mymoinfo.com. You can also go to the MyMo Info Facebook page. You could see the beautiful faces of the folks sitting here alongside
and you.
Oh, and me too, I guess.
Did we tell people to buy tractors yet?
No, but you should.
You should buy tractors, right?
You should buy a tractor. Of
Where?
any kind. Well, there's a lot of good options, but if it was me personally, sitting here right now, let me just check around the room. Oh my goodness, there's a banner for Cole's Tractor Equipment.
It's a great place to buy a tractor.
It is the home of the LS tractor.
Oh, yeah,
as a
you're
matter
right.
of fact, it is the best place in the world to get yourself not just a tractor, but the highest quality vehicle in LS tractors. It's like they say over there, Cole's Tractor Equipment. Don't just follow the herd, lead the herd.
You sound like you know a lot about tractors.
My dad actually did work in an implement there for a
There
while.
you
So
go.
farm equipment. But yeah,
Absolutely, yeah. Cole's Tractor Equipment. Big thanks to them as always. They always do a phenomenal job with supporting us, and we support them back. So big thanks to Cole's Tractor Equipment, and of course, a big thanks to Applebee's here in Farmington. Amy Cousins, they always do a fantastic job hosting us. But now, let's get back to that football, huh? As we had a whole slate of games in week one, and let's go ahead and run through the remainder of those games. Check out the rest of the week one football scoreboard. And we'll first start off with a game that saw our Applebee's Player of the Week, as it was Jefferson winning over Fredericktown 41-6, the final score. The Blue Jays, they picked up right where they left off, and they're going to be a fun team to watch here this year. But Jefferson head coach Alex Rugley, he says his team is playing at a much faster level than they did last year.
We're playing at such a different level from a speed standpoint than we did last year, and I think that goes back to the returns. I mean, almost all of our kids are back from last year, so they understand the game of football on Friday night, and they're playing at a fast pace. And that can take you a long way.
So there you hear it. Coach Rugley, he's happy with the way his team is flying around, and we also had Breeze, who was our Applebee's Player of the Week in that game, and he had himself a nice little showing.
Will Breeze had 3 catches for 104 yards and a pair of touchdowns on offense, caught a 2-point conversion. He picked off a pass on defense.
He did it all.
And he's their kicker, so he went 4 or 5 on extra points.
You sure it's the same guy?
Apparently it is. He does have a twin brother, Drew, but Drew is a quarterback, technically. So, which, by the way, Drew, Will owes you half of that Applebee's coupon you got for athlete of the week, by the way, since you're throwing in those touchdowns.
Yeah, Will Breeze with quite a performance. Again, as you said, over 100 yards on just a couple of catches, couple of touchdowns, 2-point conversion. I mean, he was doing it all, kicking, intercepted a pass. So a great performance by him and a great performance by the Blue Jays. They're going to be a fun team to watch this year. A lot of experience coming back.
Wait. You said his brother's name was what?
It is, in fact, Drew Brees.
Oh, I had to make sure I got that.
He's a quarterback.
Yeah, I had to make sure I got that.
He is Drew Brees. He plays quarterback. He wears number 9.
Of course.
But it is spelled like the wind. Breeze.
Oh, very cool.
Got a slight change there, but big performance by Jefferson in week one. So congrats to the Blue Jays on getting a win there. And then we head on over to Potosi, where, as we alluded to earlier, they got a shutout win over Owensville, 12-0 to score there. I thought that was going to be a high-scoring game. Potosi had averaged over 35 points per game in that matchup over the past 3 seasons. Not the case. They went with an absolute barn burner. Potosi 12-0. They get their first win under Dylan Wyrick, the new head coach, returning after a graduate of Potosi in 2010. Wyrick, he said he's proud of the team's defensive effort.
The defense we did pretty good. I'm very, very happy with the way our kids just continued to battle. There's Bryce Reed, Braden Isgriggs did a great job tonight, getting a good pass rush on the quarterback. He was a great athlete, and Coach Urick, our head defensive coordinator, does a great job with our defense.
Well, great job for them to get a shutout in week one. Got to feel good for Coach Wyrick, too. Him coming back and the way that he seems to be having the excitement that he has for the program is just it rubs off on you, but got to feel good to get that first win in week one.
Well, I enjoyed watching your training camp report. I mean, you could kind of feel, the tightness. He was so proud to be back there. And the students all know that he's a graduate from there, too. And what a proud win for them. I mean, anytime you can pitch a shutout, like you said.
Well, that was something that I certainly got a feel from the players, was that they knew that Dylan Wyrick was a great player for Potosi when he was there, and they know how much he cares about that football program and Potosi as a town and just the whole community. And so certainly the players are aware of it. They rally around it, and it was great to see them get a win, and a big one in week one. Low scoring, you got to love those games as a coach, man. Like you said, your team pitches a shutout. That's always good. But to eke out a win like that in week one had to feel good for Potosi. They got a tough task against Farmington coming up this week.
We'll break that one down coming up.
Yeah, we'll check out and preview that coming up. But also moving on down, another big-time shutout, Valley Catholic, as they just absolutely trounced Skyline 48-0. Valley picking up right where they left off last time. Nathan and I saw them up in Columbia when they won the Class 1 state championship. And Valley Catholic head coach Judd Nagger, he said his defense was able to bend and not break all night long.
Defense was able to bend, but not break, and we came up with some big stops early in the first half to kind of keep the game from being closer than it was.
So Valley with a big win, and no surprise there. I mean, well, surprising because of the opponent that they were playing against, but Valley Catholic, I mean, Nathan, we saw Chase Fallert last year. Obviously, the expectations are sky high for that young man. They got Corey Stoll back. They got Jaden Gegg back. They've got the offensive players. Ballard's clearly making things happen. Coach White talked about him today, and he is really impressed with him. They're going to be playing St. Gen this week, but really no surprise to see Valley start off the season the right way.
I want to know what Judd Nagger's definition of bend but don't break is when you put a shutout out on the board anyways. But, yeah, I think that's the thing he'll be most excited about is the fact that his defense showed up against a program. Skyline of Urbana is usually pretty solid out, so to hold them to a goose egg, I think, makes him really happy, and that'll be the thing that he'll probably lean on going forward. Yes, Chase Fallert got experience last year as a freshman and was a playmaker, but he is still just a second-year starter. So they're going to lean on that defense against their toughest opponents, and that'll include, obviously, later in the year. And hopefully Fallert comes along to where he goes from being a surprise as a freshman to a star at the end of the season.
Listen, I'll tell you what. I mean, talking to Coach Nagger, he could not have had more high praise and higher expectations for Chase Fallert. Coach White, I mean, in my interview that I just had with him today, he had some things to say that jump off the page about Chase Fallert. It seems like the area is starting to pick up and realize that, hey, Valley Catholic, the rich got richer for them, man, because they lost a stud, and they welcomed one right into their arms to take over the program here this year in Chase Fallert. So it's going to be fun to see Valley this coming week against St. Gen. But moving on down, another team that's going to be fun to see this year, the Seckman Jaguars. They got a big win in week one. They defeated DeSoto 49-21. And Seckman head coach Nick Baer, he said his team controlled the line of scrimmage, which led to the win.
They jumped on us pretty quick. After a deep ball, we were down 7-0, and then kind of, from there, our guys were locked in. We controlled the line of scrimmage on a football game, and eventually we just wore them down.
So a big win there for Seckman, and they looked really good against a quality DeSoto team. But then moving on down, another big win, Windsor. They got a win over Herculaneum in week one, and they have a chance to start 2-0 for the second time in over a decade. They hadn't done it in over a decade. They did it last year. They got a chance to do it now in back-to-back seasons. Windsor, they won 16-12 over Herculaneum, and it was thanks in large part to the stud quarterback Derek Williams making his return to the field after suffering a season-ending injury last year. And Windsor head coach Alex DeMatteis says Williams did not disappoint in his return.
He's kind of our do-it-all guy. Starts at quarterback, starts at free safety, is our, first team place kicker, first team punter. He gets off the field when we return punts and kickoffs, basically. So, his effort tonight was tremendous. Threw for a long touchdown to junior Connor Begeman, our 6'5" receiver, banged home a 34-yard field goal, and then after the 90-yard mark was able to, bang home the extra point to put us up by 4.
I mean, you hear it in DeMatteis' voice, man. He clearly was yelling all game long, but you also heard it there, too. I mean, Derek Williams does it all for Windsor, and he had a 90-yard touchdown run that he ripped off through the whole defense to give them the lead and ultimately give them the win. He's the straw that stirs the drink, and I'm sure it had to just be thrilling to have him back under center.
Went full Ezekiel Elliott, went 90 yards to the heart of the South there, the heart of Herculaneum to win that ball game. But we talked about his ability to do everything, which is just such a boost to this team, and it was a huge boost last year. When you mentioned they had the 2-0 start, not just the opener win, but then they beat their rival Seckman, who they've struggled with so many times. Not only is he their top runner, he's a guy they asked to throw the football from that quarterback position and play a little defense, We talked about him kicking. There's video of him hitting 50-yard field goals in practice. The kid has a great leg on top of just being this tremendous all-around player. They're a fun team. Speaking of quarterbacks, that second game, just a note,
Yeah, go
Cole Rubel, their first-time starting quarterback, 180-plus yards and 3 touchdowns on the ground. He stepped right in and ran Nick Bayer's offense to a T, and if he can do that, Jaguars are going to have a chance to really be an exciting bunch this season.
I'd say Sekman's going to be fun to see this year, man. They're going to be playing like freaks all year long, as Coach Bear had them say.
Something about Williams too, Nathan, as it's very clear that he does everything for them. And I thought it was maybe week 4 last year that he went out, and there are no one-man teams, but I mean, you could just hear in everyone's voice up there. Just they were deflated when that happened. The other thing, Williams did everything in a game that was probably the game of the night, and they were down late, and he has the big play late. So you have guys maybe that do throw for 5 touchdowns in a 30-point blowout. To me, doing what Williams did in a game like that, there's something to be said for that.
Oh, certainly. Yeah, he deserves all the recognition in the world for what he was able to do with his back up against the wall, almost literally and figuratively, where they were backed up against their own end zone. The game was on the line, and he goes ahead and just reaches into his bag of tricks and pulls out a 90-yard touchdown run to help lead them to victory. They got to be thrilled to have him back under center. Can't wait to have our first chance getting a look at them. I think we're going to have them on the sports stream this week. Perryville and Windsor, and Stephen Cowler's going to be on the call for that. So looking forward to having Stephen bring you guys the action and tell you about Derek Williams doing some good things out there with Windsor. But let's move on down. A couple more games to go through here before we'll head to our final break. Want to take a look at the Grandview Eagles and give a big shout out to them as they got a nice win over Winfield, 44-12. As Eagles head coach Dave Dallas, the Grandview head coach, he was proud of his team in their victory.
We played really well. We executed real well. We played well on both sides of the football. Our offensive and defensive line played a tremendous game tonight. I was real proud of our kids. We did. It was a great win. It's our first opening season win since 2004. So we just kind of tell you a little bit about where we were, and we've got a good group of kids that work hard. I'm real proud of them. We played with Dave Creed, had an injury, he didn't play tonight, so he's our first team all-conference tailback as well. So we played without him, and we'll have him back next week. We're looking forward to getting better every week, and that's part of our work ethic with our kids. And they did a great job. I'm super proud of them.
Well, Coach Dallas, he's a fun guy to hang out with. I know a couple of times I've had a chance to talk to him. Jacob had a great time going and doing that training camp this year. He's got to be pumped to have a team in its second year back at the varsity level.
Yeah.
Come out and put 44
third
on
year,
put 44 on the board in week 1. That's pretty nice for them to get off on the right foot of their season.
They're looking at a 2-0 start for the first time since like 2015, I think. You have to go back to just before they made that 1-year hiatus in the JV play. He mentioned David Creeth, who is a impact player, even for a team that only won 2 games last year. He did a lot on the offensive side. The fact that they can put up this type of performance without him, that bodes really, really well. I think this team took big steps from where they were 2 years ago, obviously, but even from last year. And I think this will be the first of many really good offensive performances for Grandview.
Yeah, great start for Grandview. Glad for Coach Dave Dallas and a nice start for them. Let's keep it moving. As up next, Fox, they got a nice win, 35-14, as they topped Timberland, the Timberland Wolves, I believe it is. Warriors head coach Brent Tinker, he says it was a good win, but they certainly have some room for improvement.
We were very proud of the kids to adjust and kind of try to go fall back a little bit on the basic training a little bit, and they played very hard. We're very sloppy tonight, but I guess it's week 1, so I can't really complain about sloppy as long as they're playing hard. So lots of stuff we did wrong that we can correct, but the greatest feeling is knowing they're going to play hard.
Well, Brent Tinker, he is a stickler. He is not one to appreciate a win any more than he needs to. He was right away to get in there and say, hey, we got a nice win. We put up 35 points, but we still got to get better at some things.
But he's a guy, and meeting him, so he loves football, and he loves his guys. Now, and he'll be honest, right? I mean, if something goes wrong, he'll be honest. But he just loves football, and he loves his guys, and to me, his enthusiasm is infectious.
Well, and he obviously has high expectations for this group. I mean, hey, you get a 35-point win. I mean, you're feeling pretty good at that point. He wants to get better. So we'll see what Fox can accomplish this year, and they have certainly had all kinds of loops to jump through to try to put together a schedule here in 2020.
You'd hear more about this was a game they had to schedule at the last minute, as a matter of fact.
Literal.
Yeah, to get something in for week 1, but Timberland obviously was really cooperative, and it all worked out really well. In terms of what this team can do, though, I mean, they bring back a ton of the offense. Their all-conference quarterback, Brock Inman, came back, and he was a guy that was a lethal weapon running the ball last year. They think he can get better as a passer. The only reason we don't talk about them more is those darn Jackson Indians are right there. If you don't have that team in your district, Fox is a team that could maybe win at least one playoff game at the state level. It's just a matter of, are they good enough to beat Jackson? And talking to Coach Stinker in the offseason, that is the standard around that building. Their concern is them at the end of the year.
Staying up north, we're going to head over and talk about St. Pius as they got a nice win, 45-24 over another fill-in opponent, Charleston. I believe that was one they had to get last minute. And Lancers head coach Dan Oliver says his young players.
There's always stuff we can fix, and we're rotating a lot of guys in, some young guys trying to fill some shoes for some big seniors that left, and it's early season football, and certainly we're not ready for playoffs yet, so that's good. We got a few weeks to fix things up.
Well, hey, they're another group there, and not pleased with the 45-point output and a win in week one. Always room to improve, but for Dan Oliver, that's got to be a nice way to start off the season.
Yeah, especially when you consider they're replacing their starting quarterback and pretty much all of their weapons outside of last year's leading rusher, Nate Rubel, they have to replace on the offensive end. That also means the majority of their defense is gone, and that was the heart and soul of that team a year ago. They were one of the best in the I-55 conference on that side of the ball. I think that's why he's not satisfied. In his eyes, they should have done better defensively, even with some of their younger players getting filtered in later in the game after they took a big lead. So if they are stout on that side of the ball again, Nate Rubel is back. He's a tremendous force running the football. They obviously bodes well that they scored a lot of points week one. We'll see what continues to develop, though, with what is a very, very new team compared to last season.
Still a nice win for Pius out of the gate. Two more games from our area. St. Clair, they beat Perryville 41-0. And Chaffee, they beat Crystal City 46-8. Big winners from the week one of high school football in the area. Had some great games to pick from. Can only pick one. And I see everyone scrambling to try to figure out who they want to pick. I'll go ahead and start it off, folks. I'm going to go ahead and choose the Potosi Trojans as our big winner of the week. There's a couple of teams you could certainly pick from. For me, Potosi, it's storybook for Dylan Wyrick to come back as a 2010 graduate, former All-State player. He comes back, gets a chance to take over his alma mater after a terrific season last year coaching Salem. Comes back, gets a nice win in week one, and that had to be a fun game too. I mean, you got to look. You love the high-scoring games, right? But the slug it out, grind it out, hard to get into the end zone kind of games on the opening Friday night of the season. I have to imagine the emotion was high, the anticipation was high. Had to be a great environment out there, and had to be a really fun win for Potosi in their first one under Dylan Wyrick. So Potosi is my big winner of the week. Excited to see how they match up against a really good Farmington team in week two. Nathan, who is your big winner of week one?
I mean, it's rare to think of one player turning a program, but that's what Derek Williams does for Windsor. And having him back on the field was the difference. And obviously, it was a little harder, I think, and if you talk to Alex DeMatteis, I think he would say the same thing. They maybe made it harder on themselves. They had some turnover problems in that game from what he's described. So if they're able to hang on to the football, and if they're able to keep number two healthy running the show, they're going to have a chance to make everybody – they're going to have a chance to frustrate a lot of teams that maybe they wouldn't have had a chance to hang with in the second half of last season. And they're going to be a fun bunch to watch, plain and simple. So I think they're really happy to start the season 1-0, even with a little bit of miscues here and there, and it's just a reminder of how special that quarterback they have running the show is.
Thrilling comeback win. Like you said, if they can keep Derek Williams healthy throughout the year, this is going to be a special season for Windsor football. Steven, we'll let you go ahead and go next, and you're new to this, so we'll let you jump in. Listen, you can pick the same game. You don't have to necessarily pick a new game. Windsor is a great one, certainly. That's where I might have gone if I did not pick Potosi. But you can pick any game you want, man. You can double up. If you got to give your thoughts, man. Who's your big winner week one?
The hottest it takes coming in, folks. Oh, gosh. And you've got to let me explain it before you break out. Mine's the Valley Catholic game.
Okay.
148-0. Let me tell you why. It's because whenever you're a program that has success year in and year out, you're always at state, you're always, consistently challenging yourself to be undefeated. The next group coming up never wants to be that team to lose game one.
Yep.
I'm saying they're big winners for those kids. Not necessarily for the program or the team, but for those kids knowing, okay, we can carry this mantle. We didn't go out. We didn't lose game one. We actually pitched a shutout and almost put up a 50-burger on somebody. So it's like good for those kids.
big winners, the Valley Catholic bunch.
Well, and we brought up the fact that there is a lot of pieces in place from the state championship team.
Mm-hmm.
Guys who were impact players, too. Jaden Gegg was a star in their tournament. It's in the state playoff run. Corey Stoll was their best runner last year, and they obviously have a quarterback stepping in. The new faces are in the line of scrimmage.
Yep, they really are up front.
At the end of the day, that's where football games are won and lost. So the fact that those guys went out there and ran roughshod over a pretty good program in Skyline, that's the thing those coaches will get excited about. At the same time, they'll also keep hammering into them and saying, you can't let up, because if things hold the way we think they will towards the postseason, there will be a shakeup from how Valley Catholic normally approaches things.
Yeah, they're led up front by a talented and experienced senior all-state player, Joe Williams. But aside from that, they have lost a lot of talent up front. They are young up front. So like you said, certainly exciting for Coach Nagger to see that group do so well in week one. So for Stephen Kapler, he's got Valley as his big winner. Chad, your final, who is your big winner of week one?
This isn't what I was going to go with when we started this segment, but you got me thinking, and it probably seems a little self-serving because I call all their games. But when you think about it, Farmington goes into North County. It's a rivalry game week one on the road. You don't know if you're going to have the season. They've won 6 in a row in the series, so all the pressure's on them. They're supposed to win right. They're down 14-10 entering the fourth quarter. They lose the Dream Team Player of the Year in Royce Harris off their team last year. What are you going to do for points? And they end up winning it 30-14 in a game that was really way closer than that score was. But they come up with the pivotal plays in that game. And so I guess for those reasons, maybe that is a really nice win for Farmington.
Listen,
So,
we know you're a little biased, maybe, perhaps. We know you love your Farmington Knights.
I'm not a spy, though.
No, of course not. But I mean, come on. But also, we know you love your Farmington Knights. You love supporting them. And hey, that was a great win for them in week one.
Game.
I mean, listen, it was a hard-fought back-and-forth game. Lead changes, a fourth-quarter rally. That's a good one to pick, too. So we've got Farmington for Chad, Valley Catholic for Steven, Nathan picks Windsor. I've got Potosi. Those are your big winners for week one around the area in high school football. But everyone, that was a big winner, right? Because we actually got to play some football.
Yeah.
So that was certainly
That's
a positive
right there,
through and through. We'll take a break. When we come back, we are going to preview the upcoming week of high school football. We'll tell you about all the matchups coming up on Friday night, which ones we'll have on our airwaves, and which ones we're looking forward to most. That's coming up next. Stick around on the Coles Tractor and Equipment Football Roundtable. there's an episode of Black Mirror that features this song. It's always what it takes me back to. This one was one.
This is my day.
I was saying, this one you grew up on this song, man. Great tune. Welcome back into the Coles Tractor and Equipment Football Roundtable. We hear from Applebee's in Farmington. I'm Brandon Pavlina, Nathan Gertz, my co-host, alongside Stephen Kapler, running this everything. He's running everything. Well, we do have Jack Sadler back in the studio helping out as well. We always appreciate Jack and everything he does for us. Chad Speaker here as well. We're going to go ahead and wrap this up by going ahead and previewing the upcoming week of games coming up here in week 2 of the high school football season. We'll first start off and look at some of the games that we're going to have on our regional radio airwaves. And we'll start off with the game on J98. It's going to be St. Genevieve at Valley Catholic. I'll be on the call for that game. Looking forward to that one a lot. As I said, I'm just looking forward to getting to see Chase Fallard in person in live game action. I know we had a chance to see him a little bit last year in some different roles, especially later on in the season. I know we called a couple of the games. We might have had one in there that he started, but I'm excited to just get a chance to see him in person, how he's operating the offense this year, what that group looks like coming back after the state championship, because they've got Gegg, they've got Stoll, they've got a lot of playmakers, and Fallard running the show. I'm excited to see what he can do. And I'm also looking forward to seeing how St. Gen responds. You lose a really tough game in week 1. And you could take it one of two ways. Now you're going to bounce right back with a big rivalry game, a lot of emotion tied into that game. So I'm interested to see how St. Gen bounces back. Should be a great matchup, always is, between those two crosstown rivals. So St. Gen at Valley Catholic, that'll be on J98 coming up on Friday. On AM 800 KREI, it's Potosi at Farmington. Both teams 1-0, both teams coming off some nail-biting, gutted-out kind of wins in week 1. Should be a fun one in Farmington for their first home game of the season.
Yeah, and it's one of those old MAAA matchups. This team played in 2001 before that conference was splintered, and Farmington moves their conference games, to the south. Now they have met a couple times in recent years. They didn't play from 2001 all the way to 2016. Farmington winning a pair of games, 16 and 17, and they took a few years off. But I love it when those own AAA teams get together. The North County, I love having Central on the Farmington schedule. I just think it's really exciting. I do maybe worry a little bit about Potosi scoring enough points to keep pace with Farmington in this one. To me, that's probably what this thing hinges on.
Well, we'll see if that Potosi group and Dylan Coleman can show up ready to put some points on the board, because they're going to have to against the Farmington team that put points on the board in a hurry against North County late in that one. Also on the MIMO Info Sports stream, Stephen Kapler will be on the call, as we said earlier. Perryville at Windsor, our first chance to see the Windsor Owls in person. That should be a fun one.
Yeah, excited to get out there. Windsor's going to be riding high, going to have a lot of confidence coming up that win that they had, and then there's going to be a lot to prove for Perryville. They kind of got smacked in the mouth a little bit, so I bet you they're going to be angry. They're going to have a lot of dog in their fighting their dog, and they're going to come out and do what they got to do to try and get back on in the win column.
Cow in their patty.
Yeah.
Cow in their patty.
Hey, Coach Boss is a fantastic football coach, and he has done a great job over the past few years since he took over that Perryville program of really getting them moving in the right direction. I'm sure, well, I know for a fact after we talked to him on the post-game show, he was none too pleased with his team's performance. Like you said, a lot to prove for Perryville coming back in week 2. I would imagine Coach Boss is going to be getting after him this week and getting them prepared to take on a Windsor team that, led by Derek Williams, is a much different group this time around.
Yeah, the last time these two teams played in 2017 was a 49-0 victory for the Pirates. So there's so they're 3-3 in the series all time. So this is going to be a tie-breaking kind of series, and a lot of pass between the two teams.
It's a much different Windsor football team this time around, with Alex DeMatteis entering his 4th season under at the helm of the program, and Derek Williams back under center. Should be exciting to see those two take the field. And then we've got a Poplar Bluff at DeSoto. Nathan, that should be a good one on AM 1400 KJAC.
Yeah, a team Chad's pretty familiar with conference play year in and year out in Poplar Bluff that started the season off like gangbusters, 42-0 win for DeSoto. They were out in front 7-0 to Seckman, and then it just kind of fell apart. They're making the change at quarterback this year. Briar Fisher, who was a terrific talent for them for at least 2 years as a starter, is gone, but Ethan Rising, one of their top receivers, moved in. And in talking to the folks around that program, including head coach Chris Johnson, Ethan has played a little quarterback at the JV level with the younger receivers that they have, like John Whitehead and Levi Fisher. He did throw for 2 touchdowns and over 100 yards, but a lot of that came, I think, later in the game after they were behind big. They're going to have to figure out how to get stops on defense first and foremost, obviously, and then after that, they'll see if they can make a play or two with Ethan Rising quarterback and with a couple of talented guys at receiver.
Bluff had their best couple of years in their program in the last few. 2 years ago and 3 years ago, new coach, and they lost a big senior class that year. They took a step back last year, but it looks like, Nathan, they're starting to kind of get that reloaded. I think they're on their way back up. We'll see it where they're at in that process.
Before, and this is a big one because of the conference that they play in and because of the opponents they see year in and year out. Jackson is not far behind. Sykeston is not far behind. Farmington is not far behind. If they want to start to build up some wins and get off to a fast start, build momentum into those games, they're going to need this one on Friday night.
So there you go. That's the lineup for the games that we have coming our way here this week on regional radio. It'll be St. John at Valley Catholic on J98, Potosi at Farmington on KREI, Perryville at Windsor on the Sports Stream, and Poplar Bluff at DeSoto on AM 1400 KJEF. We'll quickly run through the rest of the games going on around the area. It'll be Scott City at Central, North County at Francis Howell North, Fredericktown at Herman, Seckman at Fox, Sullivan at Festus, St. Pius at Piggott, that's an Arkansas team, Duchesne at Herculaneum, Cuba at Jefferson, Oakville at Seckman, Bayless at Grandview, and Hillsborough at Jackson. Guys, before we wrap this up, any of those games stand out to anybody? Any thoughts on any of those matchups coming up here this week?
I like the Seckman Fox one, for the simple fact that they both looked good in week one. They're close, they're from those communities where some of the kids know each other. They're familiar with each other's programs. And so I think that one's going to be a good battle.
They are bitter conference rivals. Yeah. I walked into Fox training camp and I was greeted by 15 Beat Seckman t-shirts. They are ready to go. And this will be the first of two that they play this year because of the scheduling needs for Fox to try and get games in. They'll play this one, and then they're slated to do it in Arnold again later in the season.
I didn't know that. That is interesting.
There is now a series on top of this extra bit of rivalry. I think that's the one with the most juice behind it as far as game this week.
Well, if you needed any more fuel on the fire, that's it for you. I mean, the fact that those two, they're playing more than once this year, I mean, that's going to certainly just add a little bit extra to it. For me, I'm excited to see Scott City at Central. That's a really, really quality opponent in Scott City. Central with a big win week one against East Prairie. I'm interested to see how they handle Scott City and how Jet Bridges fares in week two under center. And also Deshaun Welch can respond in his week two performance after a big 4-touchdown performance in week one. So that's going to do it for us here on this year's first edition of the Kohl's Tractor and Equipment Football Roundtable, live from Applebee's in Farmington. Before we wrap it up, let's also look at the rest of our Hearing Care Partners broadcast schedule. 2 more games the rest of the week coming up tomorrow afternoon. Nathan Gertz is going to be on the call on AM 1400 KJEF. He'll have some softball. That'll be Festus at Northwest.
Weather permitting.
Weather pending?
Weather pending, of course. Then on Thursday evening, Jacob Vincent is going to be on the call beginning at 6:15 on AM 800 KREI for some volleyball. Our first volleyball game of the season, Festus at Farmington. A little cross promotion there. Jefferson County School taking on a St. Francis County School are two home bases, if you will. Festus at Farmington, volleyball on Thursday, 6:15 on KREI. We already told you about the football games. You can check all of it out at our website, mimoinfo.com. Hearing Care Partners broadcast schedule, always updated with all the games we have coming up here on Regional Radio. If you missed any of our conversations from the Football Roundtable here tonight, we'll have the full roundtable posted shortly to our website, mimoinfo.com. Reminder, you can always go to our Hearing Care Partners broadcast schedule to see a full list of all of our upcoming broadcasts on Regional Radio. A big thanks to Greg and Christy Cole and Cole's Tractor and Equipment for sponsoring the roundtable. A big thanks to Amy Cousins and the entire staff at Applebee's in Farmington for sponsoring and hosting the roundtable. And of course, a big thanks to you, the listener, for tuning in and hanging out with us. For Chad Speaker, Jacob Vincent, Stephen Kabler, Nathan Gertz, and Jack Sadler back in the studio, I'm Brandon Pavlina. As always, be good and please wear a mask.